it absolutely crazy that up to this point in the year, that what if Madara Uchiha survived into the Boruto era part 1 is still my highest viewed video for 2021, and with the amount of comments I've gotten from you guys in part 2 and 1 regarding a part 3, I mean, I had to do it before the year ended. So here we are. What if Madara Uchiha lived into the Boruto era part 3? Welcome everyone, Sanjae Uchiha here. Welcome back to the channel. Of course, friendly neighborhood Uchiha here. I must apologize for the fact that I took so long to push out this part of the what if discussion. I've been feeling a bit under the weather, a bit burnt out if I'm being completely transparent with you guys, honestly. So just bear with me, please. But you know, what if part 3? Naturally, if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, watch those. When it comes down to these what if discussions, if you're new here, the idea is not really like a concrete, like one for one what if you get what I mean. I try to kind of discuss the multiple avenues the story could go based on the situation I'm setting up. So that's the basic gist of it. So without further ado, if you end up liking this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz and blues, and let's get right into it.
Just who are you?
I am the ghost of the Uchiha, Madara Uchiha.
So, what if Madara lived into the Boruto era part 3? With part 2, we ended with the fight against Momoshiki. Of course, we had Boruto still being the one to take out Momoshiki. I tied things in with the fact that since Madara is, continuing his whole mindset of, wanting to pass things on to the next generation and, wanting them to prosper, allows Boruto to still be the one to defeat Momoshiki with the assistance of Naruto and Sasuke, and allowing him to actually still get the karma seal at the end of the day. So there's that. So with that said, we go into the Mujina Bandits arc and beyond. Now, in part 2, we also did establish how Madara would have managed to catch up to Naruto and Sasuke's level and be in the same tier as them, as well as the fact that he's now actually a target for the Otsutsuki, as he does possess the Gedomazo as a power / life source. And we know at the end of the day, the Gedomazo is the like a better term, a sucked out seed based on the extended lore from the Boruto era, given the nature of the Ten Tails being a seed to be planted, and the Gedomazo is drained Ten Tails essentially. But the only exception in this case, Kaguya is merged with the Gedomazo. So in a sense, Kaguya / sucked out Ten Tails seed. Yeah, it's so no way, I know, but just bear with me. But yeah, so we established all of that, and Madara's kind of quote unquote quest for vengeance going into the rest of the Boruto story. Now, for the most part, the Mujina Bandits arc, it kind of continues, it goes almost, I would say, 1 for 1, like in the main story. The only difference, I would say, in these times when the Mujina Bandits arc is going on, at least, we have Sasuke who acts as a warden for Madara Uchiha. So similar to how Naruto is responsible for guarding Kawaki when he comes into the village, Sasuke is responsible for Madara. Main difference in my what if discussion here, due to Madara and Sasuke, traveling, and the goals that Madara has in mind when it comes on to the, defeating Otsutsuki, prospering and protecting and passing on things to the next generation based on his last conversation with Hashirama. The Sasuke in this situation, this altered timeline, is actually just a bit stronger compared to the main timeline Sasuke, due to the training with Madara that he would actually be doing while they're on their journey investigating the various Otsutsuki hideouts and ruins and Kaguya's palace and all that jazz and blues. So that's at least the good part about it. And of course, because of this, in terms of how Sasuke fights, him and Madara, when it comes down to how they actually operate and go forward in terms of choreography, it's much different than I would say how the main timeline actually goes. So that's the interesting part about all of this. Now, as I said, the Mujina Bandits arc goes for the most part the same as it always has been, with the only exception being due to the fact that Boruto has karma during his travels with Sasuke, Madara is extremely weary, kind of anxious, kind of agitated in terms of trying to find out more information and seeing where things go, as he and Sasuke have their suspicions when it comes on to the fact that Momoshiki, because both of them having the Rinnegan, would have actually seen Momoshiki talk to Boruto. So that's the interesting part at the end of this. So with the two of them on the inspection duty, or at least, you know, investigation duty, it kind of sets up a very interesting dynamic going forward. You know, as a side note, I really would love to hear the banter between Madara and Sasuke. That would actually be very, very interesting, if I do say so myself. But it is what it is. So the story kind of continues as you'd imagine with the Mujina Bandits arc. Of course, the mission to fight the Owl arc, essentially finding Kawaki coming back to the village. Most of that actually goes the same as it goes in the main story. The thing is, since Madara is traveling with Sasuke, Madara doesn't really come back into play until that scene we see in chapter 35, I believe. I don't remember the exact episode in the anime, but when Sasuke actually appears in the Otsutsuki hideout, where we had all those different panels on the wall, and of course Madara is there with Sasuke during his travels. Of course, when Madara sees all these Otsutsuki, he's absolutely furious. So of course, you know, him and Sasuke continue to banter and go back and forth in terms of how things are going to be tied, how things are actually winding down between, in terms of the connection between the Karma Seal, the Otsutsuki, and the fact that they've, you know, continued to assault the planet over and over again. So there's that. Of course, things kind of come to the first major change, in that Naruto, Sasuke, and Madara versus Jigen. And whoa, trust me, this the best way to put it, this changes a lot of things when it comes on to, at least when you compare it to the main story. Because of course, in the main story, we had Naruto, Sasuke, they managed to almost push Jigen to the limit. With Madara in the picture now, and a stronger Sasuke and Naruto against Jigen, I can see this being like, probably, if this was an actually real thing in the main timeline, this would be the battle of, like, the episode of the year, honestly, besides the, you know, Farewell Kurama, you know what I mean? But yo, this would have been sick, because yo, Jigen slash Isshiki would have had to go at least, if not harder, but if not harder, he would have to have fought longer than what was in the main timeline. Because with Madara pulling out, you know, the power of the Gedo Mazo, the training he's done over like 15 years, Siege mode, and all that jazz and blues, yo. Listen, I'm not saying that they would potentially beat Jigen, more than likely, because the fight would at least last an extra 5 minutes at least. And with that in mind, between the enhanced like battle sense and choreography that Sasuke Uchiha himself would have along with Madara, and, you know, tag teaming that with Naruto, honestly, I see them pulling out, I actually see them lasting long enough for Jigen's body to break down. But here is the problem now, and I'm sure a lot of persons have actually talked about this already. With Madara going in, you know, Susanoo, Siege mode, all that jazz and blues, Naruto, Sasuke, Jigen's body breaks down. He has no choice but to reincarnate using Jigen's body and reincarnate into his full Isshiki Otsutsuki form. No. Here's where things get a bit tricky. So with the power difference between Naruto, Sasuke, Madara, even as strong as Madara is with all the enhancements and training over 15 years, personally, I still do not see the three of them, especially after a fight with Jigen from before. I do not see them actually coming out of this alive. But here's where things get a bit interesting. I'm going to sprinkle a bit of spice here in terms of how this what if is going to go. So Naruto, Sasuke, and Naruto, Sasuke, and Madara definitely do lose this fight. Now, the interesting thing is I could throw in the Baryon mode, but I still want the focus to be on Madara here. So what actually happens is that I'm going to throw in the 15 years of training. Isn't just training when it comes on to Madara, but it's training, research, six-pack senjutsu, tapping into, you know, the Gedo Mazo statue in terms of harnessing its power over the 15 years and how to efficiently use it. And, you know, of course, Madara being the history buff he is, I could see him using an upgraded form of Izanagi, probably like a midway point between Izanagi and the Sage of Six Paths Hagoromo's creation of all things jutsu. So maybe by the time that they actually quote unquote die, Madara manages to rewrite reality, rewrite the deaths of him, Naruto, and Sasuke by, you know, probably temporarily giving up his sight, because this new quote unquote version is Izanagi is like a, you know, I'm more of a kind of closer to the Sage's creation of all things, but not quite it. So I actually could see something like that actually happen. Wild, I know, but I could see something like that happening, because realistically, as I said, despite by the end of the fourth Great Ninja War, if Madara was back to full health but just not being the 10 Tails Jinchuriki but having the Gedo Mazo, Naruto and Sasuke would still be ahead of him. And it's not like, despite how Naruto and Sasuke are portrayed in the Boruto era, is like, yeah, they're much more powerful than their fourth Great Ninja War counterparts. So Madara still would have had a decent amount of, you know, catching up to do. So with everything that I've given Madara, he really is in the same tier as Naruto and Sasuke, and with that in mind, even with the three of them, they're not beating Isshiki. So it puts them in a situation where they have to quote unquote fake their death with the assistance of Madara. But lovely people, this is where things get a lot more chaotic when it comes on to this what if. Now, with the fact that Isshiki is out and he only has 2 or 3 days to live, his main priority is going to be heading back to Konoha to remark Kawaki. Naruto, Sasuke, and Madara, having been revived by Madara using his, you know, new Izanagi enhanced jutsu, more than likely are going to run after him, like just like that. More than likely, but they'll more than likely be discussing like, yo, what are we going to do? And it's at this point I think things are going to be pushed up early into the timeline when it comes on to like Naruto getting Baryon mode, because that's going to be the only thing that Kurama is going to be able to say, yo, this is the only difference I can provide to you going up against this guy that literally just killed us. So so that's the thing. No, but what makes going forward in this what if a bit more chaotic than I'd like it to be is that you have to remember that Kashin Koji was on the lookout. He was on the watch in Konoha, watching Kawaki and everything that was going on. And with Isshiki appearing, giving how Kashin Koji is and how he kind of tries to take the initiative and, you know, be a bit more proactive, and he feels that he's destined, it's his mission to take out Isshiki. More than like what's going to happen is that he's going to send back a frog to update Amada on what's going on, while he goes in and tries to take on Isshiki Otsutsuki at the Uzumaki residence. And you gotta remember, Boruto, Kawaki, Sarada, Shikamaru, a bunch of Jonin are there, and I'm more than like at this point, once Naruto, Sasuke, and Madara are there, they'll more than likely learn information on, you know, what, well, Boruto will learn information on what Isshiki has planned for him more than likely, but not in as much detail as, say, in the main timeline, but he'll probably test the waters a bit. But the interesting thing is now we have this all-out battle when it comes on to Naruto, Madara, Sasuke, Kashin Koji, Boruto, and all the persons that are there at the Uzumaki residence against Isshiki. Amado, on the other hand, now getting the information that Ishiki's actually been resurrected, he's more than likely going to want to move up his plans in terms of, you know, getting rid of Isshiki and whatever game of Among Us that he has planned for Konoha. So I actually see him packing up and getting ready, deactivating Delta. But the interesting thing is characters like Code, who's going to be watching the Ten Tails, and Boro, who in the original timeline would have gotten the order from Jigen to guard Naruto, they won't have any idea what's actually going on. So it kind of leaves Amado it frees him up to actually leave the hideout, but I don't see him rush into Konoha. He'll probably kind of stay at distance and watch the live stream, if you know what I mean. So that's going to be the interesting part. Now, back on the battlefield, I do see, you know, them putting something together to actually get, you know, Sasuke to bring all of them back to another dimension, or probably the dimension they just left. And of course, at this point, Isshiki is going to be super fed up and say, okay, I'm just going to kill everybody and then go back for Kawaki. No, the interesting thing is, or what I should have done, or should have said, is that more than likely Amado would have sent back a message to Kashin Koji to relay to all the parties involved when it comes on to fighting Isshiki, and establishing the context that he has 2 or 3 days to left to live. And so at this point, once Kurama hears this, I'm like, oh, okay, so Barren Mode is the answer. So of course, Barren Mode Naruto goes in, he manages to get Ishiki's time down, and is at this point the story can go one of 2 places, where he could also still exploit the connection that Naruto has with Kawaki and bring Kawaki there. But either way, there's a lot of options now, because with, you know, Sasuke at full power, a stronger Sasuke at full power, Kashin Koji, Boruto, all of them there, they could potentially manage to stall him out more than lightly, give or take. But the only difference, major difference, is that in this battle, more than likely a lot of revelations are going to take place to establish like a foundation for emotional conflict going forward, because more than likely I do see Kashin Koji's identity being revealed to Naruto in this little situation here, which is going to lead into a bit of emotional conflict, or a bit of conflict if not emotional, when it comes down to Naruto when he meets Amado, because all things being said, Amado is still going to come to the land of fire more than lightly. So there's that. But the only difference is I actually see Kashin Koji surviving the encounter, given that who he has as backup here on his side. So there is that. It almost feels like it's not even a what if with Madara, but I mean, his presence changes everything from the initial Jigen fight. So there's that. Now, whether you have Kawaki being the one to finish Jigen, well, Isshiki, or the team of Kashin Koji, Boruto, Sasuke, and Madara, which I think I'll go the latter, and Kawaki managing to actually just stall out and finish Isshiki. What also changes is that I could see Madara having not necessarily like a emotional moment, but similar to like how Naruto is going to have this moment with Kurama. Probably Madara using his Sharingan or Rinnegan is like, and has like a one passing line, one exchange between him and Kurama as well. Because more like with 15 years gone by and living in a village, more like, and Madara being who he is and his history with Kurama, you know, probably they'll, I wouldn't say patch things out, but they'll, you know, some developments when it comes down to the relationship between Madara and Kurama, I expect it to develop. So it would lead up to this point where when Kurama's dying, you know, Madara probably says a one line, or they exchange words or something, so that kind of changes up the dynamic of how, I guess, how things really flow between the last moments of Kurama. So that's going to be the interesting tidbit. Now, the interesting thing now is that we don't have a Team 7 versus Boro, and Boro is still alive. But the difference is now we have Kashin Koji, Amado eventually makes his way to Konoha, and we have a bunch of questions and answers, and but I do see them taking in Amado with less, you know, struggle, less, you know, complications, being that Kashin Koji would have, you know, completed his mission and then he would have helped him out. So I see them allowing Amado in just a bit easier than how they did in the original. Probably Amado doesn't have to go to as drastic a length to actually get in with planting a bomb around Shikadai's neck. So that's going to be the interesting tidbit there. So I mean going forward now, we have Boro Code, and with Amado in the village, they can, you know, they can probably whip up an antidote when it comes on to, in preparation to when they potentially go up against Boro. And it's at this point now that the ghost, or the soul of Isshiki, goes to Code, and the story kind of plays out similar to what we got up to this point in chapter 62, 63 so far, more than likely. And to be honest, at this point, Madara more than likely is super fed up when it comes on to the Otsutsuki. The fact that he actually died again. And I know if this was to really happen at this point, persons would be like, jeez and peace, Madara has been revived more times than Goku at this at this point. But yeah, that would be the interesting tidbit at this point. So Madara's inclusion in the fight with Jigen actually changes a lot in terms of how the story actually progresses. I know like at some point it just doesn't feel like it was a big Madara Madara what if, but you just gotta bear with me. But at this point, no, honestly, after dying again in battle for Konoha, I could actually see, given that they're gonna have a period of just chillax kinda, 5 Kage Summit discussing about Code, I could actually see Madara, the Son of Madara arc. Anyone? I don't know. I could potentially see Madara, because if I'm being serious, I'm being honest here, the whole thing of Madara not having anybody stand behind him, there's so many things that could tie into, him being progressive and moving past that kind of mindset, which is of course taking Hashirama's words into consideration, overseeing the next generation, overseeing things are passed on to the next generation to ensure peace. And that could also tie into him eventually meeting someone that could, bear his son or daughter. So that could be another what if, maybe. You never know. But that's the way I'm looking at it. But anyway, I feel like that's pretty much it in terms of how I expect the timeline to change if Madara is in the Isshiki Otsutsuki arc. Of course, I said Boruto still on the loose, Code still there. But yeah, I think this will be the, I don't want to say final part for now. I doubt you guys are gonna want a part 4. But it is what it is. But anyway, Sanjae Uchiha, let me know what you think. I know it's a long time coming. I was all over the place for this what if, but again, it's a what if discussion. So let me know what you guys think, our thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, let me know if there's any other what ifs you want me to. You have any ideas? Let me know. I'll see you in the next Naruto and Boruto what if discussion.